go ahead. Thank you, and I'm glad to see everybody's back again, and it's 11:02. We're going to begin our agenda setting portion of this meeting. It's the Public Accounts Committee setting our agenda for the next month. Just to recap, we have got no meeting set for next week on the 14th, and I would like to let the members know that we had the Nova Scotia Gaming Corporation lined up for that date, and they had then called and said that the CEO wasn't available, and they've canceled on us. So I would actually like the committee's support in sending a letter to them that we're disappointed that they had confirmed it and then canceled us, and we are now looking for a date to put them in. We offered them an opportunity to send another one of their executives, and they had nobody else available. But I think that it's important, the history of this committee is that when we ask for witnesses to come here, they do come and they make themselves available, and I think that we should reiterate that with our guests from the Nova Scotia Gaming Corporation. With your approval. Yes, Mr. Pereira?
Yeah, we would have no problem with that, except that, you know, there is a possibility that they have a very good reason for not coming. Yeah. We should acknowledge that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've simply been told in the past that when the Public Accounts Committee asked for witnesses that they came, you know, and not recognizing they are the most senior officials, but they made themselves available. And I think now it is difficult for us, especially if it's been booked, to be bumped is a difficulty. So just to make that point, I think is important. So I would like to send a letter on that behalf. Now we'll go on to the week after. Nobody set for next week. We have the regional health authorities coming on the 21st of April. The 28th is environmental monitoring and compliance. These have already been pre-approved, and we will be looking for a date in May for the Nova Scotia Gaming, and that's been approved at an earlier meeting. But we have four weeks in May, that 4 Wednesdays that fall in the month of May. We have the Auditor General coming on June 2nd, I believe, is the Wednesday, which will be a long meeting, the in-camera and the public meeting. So that also leaves 4 further Wednesdays in June. If we set 4 today, we'll be able to put 1 into June as well. Our intent would be to have this meeting only once a month at most, just making sure we have enough coming up. So with that, I'd like to just let the committee know. Of course, this is the first time we've done this with the full committee, but what we have done in the past in the in-camera meetings of the agenda setting has been to go from one caucus to the other, allowing somebody to pick, somebody from that caucus to put one of the items on your list forward for discussion and for a vote, in fact, of whether or not there's support to bring that particular witness or witnesses from that particular area here to this committee. So I think that we'll follow that because when we met with just 3 members, it was possible to look for overlaps a little bit more, but I think in order to expedite it today, we'll allow each caucus to go around and put 1 item on the agenda, and we can move from there. So in keeping with our normal order in the committee, I'd like to begin with the Liberal caucus and ask Mr. Caldwell if he'd like to propose, and I'd also like to make sure that the committee members all have the lists in front of them, so you'll know where this comes from. Okay, Mr. Caldwell.
Yes, I'd like to move the Department of Justice Maintenance Enforcement Program, as we have on our list with the Deputy Minister of Justice and the Director of Maintenance Enforcement Program, to come forward. Okay,
very good. So that'll be our first one on the list. Did you want to have discussion with each one? I'm wondering if Mr. Pereira would like to discuss one or just have them come forward.
Sorry, Madam Chair, we're in a completely new world. I'm not sure how you would like to proceed. We do have comment on that suggestion, but I'm not sure. Do you want to go around before we do that, or?
Okay, well, let's put maintenance enforcement as one motion then from the Liberal caucus. Conservative caucus, please. Mr. McMaster.
I would like to move that we bring forward the Insurance Bureau of Canada, and while they're not a government body, there have been many examples in the past where we've brought in organizations who can give some perspective on decisions that government make. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and NDP Caucus. Mr. Pereira, would you be speaking?
Well, we're quite happy to talk about the Service Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations Land Registry System.
Okay, I saw that one on your list of 3, so very good. Now, what we could do, since that's 3, is have our discussion on those 3 or a vote on each one of those, and then see where we go from here in terms of getting items that are approved. So, is that good with you, Mr. Caldwell and Mr. McMaster? Yes? Okay, very good. So on the first one that was proposed was maintenance enforcement. Ms. Kent? Ms. Kent.
Thank you. I just want some clarity on, are we only discussing that's it today, the 3?
No, I'd like to put more on. I suspect that maybe all three won't be approved by the full committee, so.
We only have 5 more minutes
All right.
to proceed, so I think,
Okay,
because
thank you.
we're scheduled to end at 11, and we've got a meeting here and then
But
a
you
caucus
knew there was an agenda-setting meeting after.
No, I didn't. I thought we would do it within the time that we had allotted. There was not, yeah.
Okay.
We had made plans to.
I'm sorry you
Leave
didn't
at
send
11.
me a note. I could have cut back our second round, but I had allowed for the full amount.
Sorry, Madam Chair, it is normal procedure to go from 9 to 11. I didn't see anything that said we would go beyond.
This is a separate committee meeting, I'm sorry, but anyway, we won't discuss it now because your time is short, so we can certainly discuss it at another time. So with a motion to have maintenance enforcement come before us, can I have a vote on that? Yes, Mr. Smith.
Madam Chair, I spent 2 hours yesterday morning with the Community Services Committee meeting, and maintenance enforcement was thoroughly vetted by all parties at that time. And I just think it would be a huge time loss and redundancy for us to go through it all again. It was done yesterday.
Yes.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to rehash the same material.
Yeah.
And that's all available in Hansard, of course. And
Yes, yeah.
It's
I
public.
was in attendance there yesterday. I would say that the approach was different than the Public Accounts Committee questioning would be, but Mr. Caldwell, did you want to speak to that before we have our vote?
Yes, I believe it's relevant, and if it was the community services, I'm aware of it being there, and evidently I understand there was many more questions that should have been asked, and the focus in this committee is definitely different than what community services would have, so I still would like to maintain this one on our list.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Pereira.
I'd like to speak to that. The Deputy Minister was there with members of that particular unit to talk about maintenance enforcement, and there was a great deal of discussion, in fact, a lot of very specific discussion about the Auditor General's recommendations. And I would propose, since not everyone was there, that we look at the transcript for that meeting and then reach a decision on that when we've seen the transcript.
Are you proposing that we postpone the vote on maintenance enforcement?
Well, if I was
Because we
asked to
can
vote today, I would vote against it, but I'm willing to concede that there might be members of the committee who are looking at other things and might reach a different conclusion, but I would concur with the member from Antigonish that this has been dealt with.
Mr. Colwell, are you all right if we postpone the vote on that one? That means it'll remain on our Liberal list?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So let's look at the Insurance Bureau of Canada, if we could, from the Conservative Caucus. Shall I put the vote on the floor, or is there any discussion? Mr. Pereira?
I'd like to speak to that, Madam Chair. Insurance Bureau of Canada, I'm not even sure how that's connected to the Public Accounts Committee. The Public Accounts Committee is really responsible for looking at government expenditures, those expenditures that have already been made, and the extent to which those expenditures have been made, with economy and effectiveness and efficiency. The Insurance Bureau of Canada, and this particular recommendation, has no relevance at all to the work of this committee. There may be some other committee that can look at it, but I can't see how it fits within the mandate of the Public Accounts Committee.
Mr. Porter? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McMaster.
Well, Madam Speaker, I do believe that any decisions around insurance ultimately affect Nova Scotians, and this committee, while we have discussion with government organizations, any decisions by government that is going to affect insurance is going to affect Nova Scotians, and having a group like that here will allow us to ask questions to tie back into decisions made by government bodies.
Mr. Pereira.
Madam Chair, if I can just read from the mandate of the committee, just to be clear. The Public Accounts Committee is not fundamentally concerned with matters of policy. This recommendation that's being made here says that we look at the NDP government's review of the cap on minor pain and suffering injuries in Nova Scotia. At best, it's a policy question. It doesn't fit with the mandate generally, but at best, it's a policy question. The committee does not call into question the rationale of government programs, but rather the economy and efficiency of their administration. And it looks at, it essentially looks at expenditures made, and this really doesn't fit at all with the mandate of the committee. And I would say that, just on principle, we would object to that being on the agenda. Not to say it's not an important issue. It is an important issue, and it will be discussed and has been discussed elsewhere, but certainly the Public Accounts Committee is not a place for that.
I would say that this particular issue is difficult to find in another committee, and it reflects on our committee structure, not really providing the avenues. But Mr. McMaster, would you like to
I'll
respond?
just deliver a very short response, and that's that I actually asked for some advice in this matter because I do recognize that this organization is not a government body, but there has been precedent in the past where there have been organizations brought in, and it's been a value to the committee here. I think it's a value to Nova Scotians. And I still would like to move that we bring this group before this panel.
Mr. Caldwell, would you like to add to that?
I would agree with the Conservative caucus on this issue. The issue really here is that any changes are made in the way that the province governs insurance companies could have a negative or a positive impact on the finances of the province. And I think that's very, very important. And I believe that fits in the criteria of the committee. And for instance, if the insurance companies aren't allowed to participate in healthcare costs that relate to an accident, that's a definite impact on the province, and long term a very detrimental one. Yes. So I think there is a connection between what the insurance company and bureaus do and the province and the financial situation in the province as well.
Okay. With that being said, Mr. Smith?
To suggest that I don't believe we have a mandate to review this. It is clearly a policy issue. It's got nothing to do with the financial review of government expenditures. That's our role. We can't be delving into these things that are not appropriately our mandate. Thank you.
Yeah, let's call the question. Mr. McMaster, you are entitled to say something.
Could I ask for the opinion of Mr. Hebb, who's the solicitor here today?
Yes, certainly. Mr. Hebb, who has joined us today, could you comment on the appropriateness? Mr. Hebb is there you go. I don't think they caught you for Hansard, though, Mr. Hebb.
Sorry. I said I don't think I have anything useful to add to the discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. So not at this time. So I'd like to call the question for that. That was the suggestion is the Insurance Bureau of Canada coming as a witness. All those in favor say aye. Sorry.
May we have a recorded vote?
You would like a recorded vote?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Yes. Is that all right with everybody? Good. Well, we'll do a recorded vote. We'll begin with Mr. Smith then. Are you in favor of the Insurance Bureau of Canada?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Mr. Goss?
No.
Ms. Kent?
No.
Mr. McKinnon?
No.
And Mr. Pereira?
No.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
And Mr. McMaster?
Yes.
And Mr. Porter?
Yes.
That is clear. Then we do not have a majority for that, so that item is not there at the moment. It can come back. Perhaps we could look at somebody within government who could speak to the role of government in that. The last one we have on the table right now is the land registry system, which is recently changed to a digital system. It might be something of interest to the committee, and that was proposed by the NDP. Shall I just put the question? Yeah. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay? Well, that is accepted. Okay, we have one item on the go. Could I suggest, too, that that we begin one more round quickly? We're going quite quickly. There is an overlap between the Liberal and Conservative lists for the Southwest Shore District Health Authority. And we did have them. I'm not sure if that's Mr. Caldwell's next choice, but I'm looking for some overlap and maybe some understanding or agreement as we go forward. But Mr. Caldwell, would you like to propose, if you had another one that you think is a more important one, or would you like to propose one where we have an overlap?
I think the one with the overlap may be appropriate right at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. So that would mean we'll look at the Southwest Shore District Health Authority. Would you like to propose a different one as well, Mr. McMaster? From your list?
We would like to propose to bring forward Mental Health Services Division of Nova Scotia Department of Health and the funding levels required in upcoming years.
Okay, I think actually that's a very topical one as well, and even yesterday the Minister of Health said it is a priority for her government and for herself. Ms. Kent?
Thank you. I have a question regarding that. The memo that we have notes that the Mental Health Service Division, Nova Scotia Department of Health funding levels required in upcoming years, which would suggest to me that that's related to budget future spending. Can we refine that to the degree that it would regard, which is appropriate for the mandate, which is past spending?
Okay.
Because anytime we delve into that, we're going into a whole new, you know, inappropriate, frankly, area that the mandate of this committee is not appropriate, rather budget and estimates and such.
Yes, yes. And Mr. Pereira first?
Madam Chair, I think when we looked at this in agenda and procedures, and I think Ms. Coleman-Saad referred to this, this was something that was going to be a chapter in the June 2nd report, and the suggestion was that we wait until we have seen that chapter before we proceed on that recommendation.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Lapointe.
Yes, that is an audit that's currently underway, and there will be a chapter on mental health services in the report that will be provided on June 2nd.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Yes, Mr. McMaster.
I respect the points made, and I accept what Mr. Pereira is suggesting, and I do recall that now, so I apologize for putting it forth.
Right. Right, no, and it is a very interesting one, I think, to all of us, but we can perhaps hope to see that in June after we receive the Auditor General's report. Mr. McKinnon? Mr. McKinnon, your light is not on. Now it is. Good.
I just want to go on record as indicating that this is very important, and it should be on the agenda very shortly after the Auditor General's report to us. Thank you.
I agree. And Mr. McMaster, did you want to propose a different one? Or Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's also on the Liberal list. I thought I had added it to mine, but it is the PharmaCare program through the Department of Health. It will be very worthy of looking back to see how that's been going over the last year. It's been a fairly good program, and there'd be a number of questions I would have around that.
Mr. Pereira?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, maybe I misunderstood this, but did I hear a proposal that the Southwest Development Authority would be a common issue that was being put forward? And
It was District Health Authority.
sorry, District Health Authority.
Am I right? District Health Authority, yes, that's been put forward.
Where's that proposal now, then?
It was on both the Liberal list and on the Conservative list.
But is it being brought forward, or?
Yes, Mr. Caldwell's already put it on the table.
Could we have a vote on that, then?
Oh,
perhaps?
rather than putting three out, you'd like to vote one by one? Fine. Yep.
Well, I think
Ms. Kent?
we've got to go, and if there's a consensus or unanimity, I think that probably is the best way to proceed, because I think we could go on for quite a long time.
Okay. Ms. Kent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want clarity. Is it Southwest District Health Authority or South Shore District Health Authority?
Oh, sorry. Let's double check. Because there were two. They were on both lists.
At this point, so we want to be clear.
South Shore District Health Authority is definitely on the Conservative list, and what is it on the Liberal list? Southwest Shore. Oh, we have two
Southwest Shore.
You're right. They're two different ones. I saw them as the same. Yeah. So
I don't think there's
anybody from the South Shore that can say the difference? Are they the same district health
It's either
authority?
South Shore or Southwest.
South Shore is the correct name.
South Shore
District Health Authority, but they are one and the same, I'm just being told. So that's the one we'd be voting on.
South
right.
Shore.
Thank you for
District Health
correcting me on that, because that is an easy one to mix up. So it's South Shore District Health Authority, and with that, and the proposal that we vote on them one by one, could I have all those in favor say aye? South Shore District Health Authority, we're going to deal with it one by one. Yeah, thank you. So all those in favor of that item, could we please have aye? Contrary-minded, nay. And that motion is carried too. So that allows us two on our agenda. And PharmaCare was the third one that's just been proposed from the Conservative Caucus. Yes, Mr. Caldwell.
I heard some, no, go ahead with that, yes.
Can we go ahead with PharmaCare? Yes. Any discussion on that issue? I think it's one of the largest items in the health budget, and a good one to look back at and see how the spending has gone over the years and how well we're serving the public with the spending that we do. I believe it fits under the mandate is really what I'm saying, Mr. Pereira. Yes. Mr. Pereira, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, it certainly fits within the mandate. I just wanted to get some refinement of the question itself so that we can know which department, which witnesses.
I think we'd be looking for the executive director, or, you know, certainly of that area, and possibly we could have the Deputy Minister of Health as well. So our committee clerk, Ms. Henry, says that would likely be what we would invite, but we certainly would want the person in charge of the PharmaCare program. Mr. Pereira.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm not sure we have a mechanism in place for doing this, but I think that the calling of witnesses should also be subject to consultation, so committee members can decide who they would like to bring forward on some of these issues, just to bring greater clarity.
I will say we've generally left that to our clerk once we define which area we want to explore and look at. And, understanding our mandate is to look at the past expenditures, then we look at who's most appropriate. Sometimes you'll bring an item here and not really know who's responsible within government. That is a problem. So did you have any comment, Ms. Henry, about finding the right witnesses?
Well, I just want to say that whenever we do, or the committee does bring in witnesses, I always go to the deputy minister within that department, and then the person in charge of that file, whether it's an executive director or CEO, whoever.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And that clarifies it for me as well, because I know that Ms. Henry is just very good at finding the right people to bring before us. But with that, could we have a vote on the pharmacare issue as another one of the upcoming witnesses? All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay? Well, that one is also approved, so that's very good. Could we have one more from the NDP Caucus? Would you like to put one more item forward?
Quite happy to move adjournment, Madam Chair.
All right, so we have 3 on our list from today. 3. We will do this again. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time. I realize it's tartan day. Thank you. Bye. We're adjourned.